I want to welcome Jessie Thompson to the third episode of BLUECAST. You know, I've interviewed Ian, I interviewed Dirk. I thought you'd be a good third person to have on the podcast because we've known each other and worked together for a long time, and now we're partners. The last year you came and joined our branch. You brought your branch to join our region at Allied Mortgage, and I know you have a wealth of information that we want to share with the world. And I think there's probably a lot of listeners and people watching that want to hear what you have to say. To me, you are probably one of the most successful, influential women that I have known in my career in mortgage banking. So, you know, I think you have a lot of good things that the world needs to hear, and I'm excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. Are you buttering me up for something?
No, I'm not. I'm not buttering you up at all. I'm just
Thank
kind
you.
of like giving you the introduction that you deserve. I mean, you know, we've known each other for 15 years, I think, something crazy, right? Like since 2008 or something.
Yeah. When did you
2008.
start? Okay.
So since 2008,
Yeah.
we've known each
I was
other.
08. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
you know, I did this with Ian and I did this with Dirk, and I think I'm going to kind of do this with all the guests that we have on the show, is kind of just like, give me your timeline, your history, like when you got into the mortgage business, how long you've been doing it, who you worked for. So just kind of give us a little bit of a background on who you are.
Yeah. So I grew up in Boulder, and then went away to college in Texas, at Baylor. Yes, Baylor, go Bears. And then came right back after college. So has been back living in Boulder County for, this year is 25 years.
Yeah.
And so I've been in the mortgage business since 2001. I was 24.
So you went right from college.
No, I had a couple jobs in between.
What did you do before you got into
I was doing
mortgages?
tech sales at GE Access in
Okay.
Boulder, which a lot of us, there's a bunch of us that worked there. That was, you know, the hot tech job in Boulder
Right.
at the time. I just knew I wanted to do something in sales and business, but I didn't know exactly what. And then got laid off in 2001
Okay.
when the tech boom
Oh, right, because the tech
crashed.
bubble.
And then my dad knew the owners of Boulder West Financial, Lou Barnes and CJ.
A legend in his own right.
He is a legend.
Yeah.
So he's like, why don't you go talk to them and see if you would want to be in the mortgage business? And I said, well, Dad, don't forget, I'm not very good at math. You know what I got in finance in college? And he's like, well, yeah, but I think it might be, he said, I think it might be more sales than, you know, the math and the finance piece. Why don't you go talk to them?
Right.
And the rest is history. So that was in 2001.
Yeah.
I became a loan officer, and I would just go sit in all the different, there was zero formal training, zero. I mean, there wasn't,
nobody did
that
anything.
wasn't a thing. We didn't have to get licensed. There wasn't training. So I just went and I would sit in every loan officer's office and just hear what they said and how they talked. And I just had to figure it out. And at that time, rates had just dropped.
And you were 24?
I was 24. I had a mortgage, but I didn't really understand it. I know.
Pretty crazy.
I mean, I did not know what I was doing.
I mean, I think of my son's 23, and I'm like, there's no way. I mean, I was a snowboarder at 24.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't even thinking about,
Yeah.
you know.
But we owned a home. We had a mortgage for maybe a year. So I wasn't, you know, completely foreign to it, but I was still very young. I was very young.
I mean, the fact that you were 24 years old and you had owned a home for a year is something in itself.
We're like annoying overachievers. When everyone else was like out having fun still, we already had like our jobs
super
and a
serious.
mortgage and
Right.
like we didn't mess around.
So then did you work for Boulder West for Lou Barnes before you went to Premier Mortgage Group?
Yeah, so I worked at Boulder West for, I think it was 4 or 5 years, and that was amazing. It was, the local little mortgage banker.
Right.
I learned so much. And then I went to CTX Mortgage with Amanda Sesa.
Yeah, right.
And that's where Brad McNamara and I met there.
Oh, I didn't know
we
that.
worked there together. Yeah.
Way back then.
Yeah, way back then.
I had no idea Brad had been in the business that long.
So that was in, let's say, 2005. So then I was at CTX, which is Centex Homes. Barry Habib worked there at the time.
Really?
Wow. So that was 2005 to 2008. I was there.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I had a small feat of having twins in that period also. In 2006, I had twins.
Right.
So I was working, but
Also
a little distracted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then went to Premier. Melanie and Ariel recruited me then in 2008.
So you must have gone to Premier like right before, within a year of when I showed up.
I think
right?
I was a little bit before you because I feel like I was there for a while.
So maybe
I was January
of 08, and so I might have been like end of 08, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And then so keep going.
Then I was at Premier from 2008 until 2019, so 12 years at Premier. It was a long stint. It was awesome. I learned so many things.
And you ended up being a manager there, right?
Yeah, so
that's where you got your feet wet with management?
2 years, I was the sales manager, and it was hard, and it was hard.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot. And then Guaranteed Rate Affinity recruited me to be their like in-house lender at Coldwell Banker, and I was kind of against it at first, but I thought it was a great opportunity to just go be a sales manager and kind of build my own little team.
Yeah. What do you think are the top lessons you learned when you took that job, and well, not only just being that kind of manager, but also what kind of the tools that you learned in that part of your career, just being an in-house lender, especially for Coldwell Banker, I think, which is kind of a high level. I think the agents probably there are like, they don't just recruit anybody. I don't feel like there. Right?
No, it's a good group of agents.
Yeah,
and there's some really good agents there. Boulder office is one of the top offices of the Coldwell Banker.
Right.
It's funny looking back on that. That's a great question. I've always, just like we've all been, an independent mortgage banker, right? Where we weren't tied to anything. We could work with whoever we wanted, any agents, anybody. And the cool thing is I was still able to do that. So I still had all my other outside realtor partners and clients, but then I added this to be like the in-house lender there to be able to help them. And what I learned from it that Guaranteed Rate is really, really good at and pushes is all the social, like having parties, being social, having classes, like always educating and adding value to realtors, whether it's fun, class, just being a resource. They did a really great job, and Dana and I took that. We really took that from our time there. Is how do we kind of constantly stay in front of our realtor partners and add value, right?
Yeah, I think you're probably one of the best people I know at doing education events and parties, and that aspect of stuff with realtors, and I can definitely tell a difference of when I worked with you when we were at Premier years and years and years ago, compared to where you're at now, running your branch, and how you are now and how you handle that kind of stuff. You're definitely come a long way, and it shows in what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to just pause for a second and kind of like digress into a side subject about just being a resource for agents and how important that is for loan officers in general. And I think I'm going to pick your mind a little bit about that, and we're kind of going to dive into that topic a little bit, because I think we both fancy ourselves in being like really good resources, right? And different in different ways. Like obviously my business is completely different than your business. And but anytime there's like for me in my experience, like anytime agents have a problem or have a deep question about something,
they'll call you.
They always call me, whether I'm involved in the loan or not, and say, hey, here's the situation. What do you think? How should we handle this? And so what is your experience, with that kind of stuff, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think some of it is just time in the business, right? When we've been doing this for 22
we're ancient.
Now that we're super old. But truly, we, and I'll speak for both of us, we have seen a lot, right? After 22 years of doing this, we've seen almost every scenario, almost every, we just know.
Or an iteration of that scenario, right?
Correct. So I think a lot of that comes, that more being an advisor to clients and realtors comes easier and easier and easier the longer you've been doing this, because you have seen it all almost. So I think that's part of it, and just being able to draw on our memories from, oh yeah, I had that deal once,
Like,
15 years ago.
Before.
I'm serious.
Right.
I had that before, and this is how we solved it. Or so I think that's a big part of it, which just kind of comes with time. But I think the other thing that advising, I've always loved. I've kind of joked that I really love teaching. And advise. I love teaching and like mentoring.
I have a whole topic on here we're gonna get to, but
I think that I do that with my partners too, right? I'm kind of always trying to like teach and mentor whoever I'm working with, whether it's a client, a realtor.
I think some of the best coaching to real estate agents I ever did in my career was alongside you. And working for Mel. And she was always like a strong advocate of that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
And just being like, hey, you know, reaching out and doing all that stuff and coaching and coaching with your realtor partners.
Correct.
And I think a little bit of that has always kind of been ingrained in us, but I think the most I've ever done is probably alongside of you.
Yeah.
In those years of us building our business.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah. And I think the other thing, Dana and I do it a lot, is we run similar business to realtors, right? We have to go out
Very
and get
close, right?
our clients. We are, independent. We have to get business. So we're also constantly advising, saying, well, I've tried this. It's easy to give them thoughts or advice on how to do this business,
right?
Because we're doing the same thing, right?
Essentially.
I mean, if we're doing this in the same.
I mean.
Well,
I don't know if it's exactly the
but I mean, we're both in the business of, you have to go out and scrap and find deals, and how do you build your business? How do you run your business? So I think that's also comes naturally. So I don't know, did I answer your question?
I think it was kind of a nice little sidestep to visit that whole piece of it. But what we were talking about when I kind of took you off topic was where you were at in your career, and you were at guaranteed rate, and they had taught you how to reach out to these realtors.
Yes.
And that was like the biggest lesson that you felt like you learned by going to work there.
Yes.
So, coming out of that, so, you were basically there until last year, until you came to work with us.
3.5 years I was there.
So 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. And then you were, obviously you came and joined us, and how do you feel like that's going now? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not really a fair question because I'm kind of your boss.
Exactly.
But you know what I mean? Yes. It's like, well, I know. No. I'm going to let you tell me, but I already know some of the things because I know how great you feel to have the freedom and the power and the flexibility and and kind of run your own business the way you want to run it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So when I was there, it was my first. It's like there's been these like baby steps, which has been really looking back really cool, right?
Which we've all had to take to learn.
Exactly.
Like you learn, you get to the next level, and you're like, okay, and you master this level, and then you're like, okay, and then you learn secondary market, and you understand the back end of mortgages. So sorry.
No. So the first step was just becoming a sales manager at all, right? And at Premier, I created a loan officer training program that helped get new loan officers. So I created it and ran it and taught new loan officers.
Where's that program right now?
I don't know. We need to revamp it. I agree. Well, and it was for brand new, like getting new people into the business, which is
hard,
real hard,
especially right now in the market.
And that's actually what we learned from that that's great, and it's a great thing to try, but it's hard.
What do you think your success rate was? Of people that actually stayed in the business?
20%.
20%. So for one for every 5,
that like ended up being like good at this business and able to do it, even though we gave them exact same training, same.
They got the same.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, that was the beginning of like managing, right, and being a loan officer and some kind of like a sales manager or doing other things for other people in a branch, and I loved it. The next step is also then growing. Like having my own little team, right? So I've had between 3 and 5 loan officers kind of under me as a sales manager. And so I've loved that. That was my first time of like, and that it was really mine, right? I mean, under this corporate, but still I got to run my team the way I wanted. We had retreats, we, had meetings and kind of mentoring and training a little group of people.
Right.
So that was really cool. But then now here, then it's taken it even another level, right? Where now I am truly the branch manager, and I am able to make decisions for my branch about pricing, money, rent office space. Like, so now we've taken
it's like running your own business without actually running your own business.
Exactly. But with you guys at the Boulder branch being able to really kind of literally like hold my hand through some of these things, because I have never actually fully run a branch before.
Right.
So it's amazing, and I love it. And I love that I am able to do what I love in having a team, but then with you guys backing me and helping with like P&Ls and all the things that I've never had to do.
Right.
So
it's a good step.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm not sure what's next for me. What's next for me?
I mean, sometimes I think about it and I'm like, I don't know if you really want to like own your own mortgage company because of the risk that's involved.
Yeah.
Like, so
what
often,
is the next step?
Yeah, like so often people are like, so do you own your own business? And I'm like, well, I'm as close to like owning your own business in the mortgage business as you possibly can, because you have your own P&L and you're kind of running your own business without like actually taking care of the risk and the money.
Agree.
And like, because we just deal with, I mean, especially in our market, right? Yeah. Like you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of risk. That it's like you don't really want to take that risk on, but you want to have all the control.
Agree.
Right? So I think I've always felt like we're kind of in the sweet spot.
I agree.
Of having your own business without actually having to have your own business.
And still having a company behind you that provides all the things you need, but then being able to make decisions for your branch and your team on how to actually like run the business. So I love it. I'm super excited. And I mean, it's a bummer that, last year was just a little rough.
Well, so that's a good segue into the current market conditions.
Oh, yes.
That was my next topic here, so it's kind of a good segue. So, I mean, I've asked all my guests on about it, and what's your take? Like, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen over the next year? I mean, obviously, this is like no other time in history, as fast as the Fed raised rates. If you listen to my previous episode with Dirk, we went into detail with all that information.
Yeah.
But what do you think moving forward? What does that look like? How are you positioning yourself to succeed in this market that's moving forward? I want to hear your thoughts and ideas on that.
I think it's just been such a whiplash, I think is the right word.
That's a great word for it.
For us.
Whiplash.
Right? I mean, so 2019 was pretty normal, right? Like normal-ish market, like nothing crazy going on. Then we get to 2020, 2021 COVID, and then it becomes so just to put all this in context, it becomes our best years that, in the mortgage business that we've ever had in history is 2020 and 21, that we're so busy we can't, we're just going crazy. Yeah. So we have that. Then 2022 was sort of a middle-ish ground. We are still sort of
in it a little bit.
Yeah, like riding the wave of that, but it got worse. And then 2023 is when it really just totally turned off. And it was my worst year that I've had in, ever, or in...
Probably back to the mid-2000s.
Late 2000s. So I think it was hard to not, even just like mentally, to try to stay, and you do a good job of encouraging our whole team about this. Like we ride the wave, but then also we're just trying to stay as like even about it. And like, I'm still doing this. This is still my job. I'm still working really hard. Even if I'm...
Dirk had a really good thing he said yesterday. He said, stay alive to 25 or something that I thought was hilarious. Where it's like, if we could just survive to 25, like
keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
I agree.
But
not getting like so upset about it, or not riding this too high or the too low anymore. Right.
Which is just a life lesson in general, right? I tell my kids all the time, like, you don't have lows without highs.
Yes.
You're not like, don't get too excited when things are great. Don't get too bummed out when things aren't doing very great in your life. Just kind of try to stay even keel, high emotional IQ kind of stuff. Yeah.
And that for those of us that, what we call it, like getting through 23. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who are out of the business and are no longer doing this. This is the business that I know. I don't know how to do anything else. So I'm doing this.
I shared this fact with Dirk yesterday.
Yes.
Or the other day when we did the podcast. And did you know in December in Colorado there was like 22,000 registered mortgage brokers, bankers?
That didn't.
And in January it went down to 16,000.
It's awesome. I
love
saw
that.
nationally. That's amazing and awesome. And that is good news. And that's
Right?
something
For
to
us,
cheer.
because we're like the
It's
veterans,
huge.
right?
I saw nationally in like 2021, 22, there was like 181,000.
Yeah.
And now it's down to 88 nationally is
Wow.
what I saw, which again, awesome, right? And that's kind of this is what
Like
we
weed out
do.
the people that don't. This
Yep.
is our lives.
This is what we do.
Every one of my guests and all
Yep.
of us have all been in this business for 20 years, right?
Exactly.
Like at least.
And was the last year painful? Is this year going to be maybe medium painful? Yes. But like, we just have to keep doing it.
I feel like we have a little bit of excitement here.
No,
like, I kind of feel like
good.
have a
But
little
is
bit
it
more
going to
energy.
be, is it going to be
Short-lived excitement?
one of our best years? No. But is it gaining momentum and is it getting better and better? Yes.
You feel that way?
Absolutely.
You feel
I
like
think
we're
we're
on
getting back to more of just a normal-ish environment.
Yeah.
And I do think activity's picking up, with the second rates went down psychologically for people. All these people have resurfaced. So I'm feeling confident about this year, but I don't want to be overly, I just don't want to say, oh, this is going to be the best year ever. Because I think we're still in an okay year. Yes.
Well, we don't know what the Fed's going to do. We don't know what rates are going to do. Like, I think a healthy market of interest rates is somewhere between 5%, right? Like 4.5% to 6% or something.
Yeah.
I think over history, 6% is what Dirk said yesterday or the other day. Is that that was kind of like if over history that's the median rate. So
which
it's
is
like
and we're close.
We're trying to normalize and just normalize that behavior, right? Like this is what it costs to own a house.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with your with yourself and stuff to just kind of prepare, and what kind of groundwork are you laying right now with your agents, and what are the things that you're doing to like get ready and crush?
This year.
Do as best as you can with what you're dealt.
I think still all the things that we talked about originally, staying in front, just making sure that we're not, I think a lot of loan officers have literally gone into like hiding in the last year and a half when things weren't that great. Yeah. It was very easy to just kind of be like, oh, well, this is just a bummer and I'm going to just kind of stay at home and like hang out with my dogs and my kids.
Can I ask you, like, if I ask you this question, will you answer it honestly? Do you feel like even yourself, you were like a little bit depressed?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like I felt like towards the end of the year, I wasn't like depressed, but I was just like, God, I just don't like this business anymore.
Yes.
Like I had to like re-engage myself a little bit. You know what I mean?
It wasn't a good year. We weren't and we weren't very busy.
Yeah.
When you're not busy,
the mind
what
wanders.
do you do? Yeah, you just kind of are like, oh, well,
yeah.
You stop, like working is hard. You stop.
Yeah.
So I think what I tried to do last year that I think I was good at, and I'm sure I annoyed you at times, is I just kept work. I tried to just keep working as hard, like keep doing all the same things, keep going to lunches, keep having classes, keep having parties, like not stopping because the market wasn't as good.
Yeah.
You still grind and you still do all the things.
Or you should almost do it more, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's one of those things like if it slows down, then you double down and you work harder.
Correct.
Right? Because that's going to pay dividends on the other end, right? Exactly. And it always does, right?
And making sure that, like we were talking to realtors last year about, okay, it is down and it's hard, but like what are some positives? What are things we can be doing? Like trying to always look for the positives or what can we be doing together to get business? Yeah. Or instead of just all sitting around, because the other thing realtors and lenders are famous for is getting together and just talking about how bad the market is or how high rates are. And that doesn't help anything, right?
I love the way you just explained that about your realtors, because like at the beginning of this conversation, you were talking about how you're like coaching with your realtors, and then the way you just explained it, you kind of put yourself with them. You know what I mean? And that speaks to you being like, I'm not just saying these things, I'm actually living these things, right? Which I think is like a super important attribute to being a good leader. Yeah, is kind of like owning.
Like we're doing this.
You know
together.
what I mean? Like you're owning it, and you're like, I don't want to. I'm not going to just sit here and say these things. Like, I'm actually doing that. And it shows in the way that you're explaining these situations with your realtors, which is really cool to watch.
Cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Like you started
but
the
that
conversation.
actually is how
I know.
I mean,
that's what I'm pointing out. Like you're talking about something, and then when you explain what you've actually done, it's like you put yourself in the same boat with them.
Good. I'm consistent.
You are consistent. No, but it's like a cool little thing that you're doing. Like, and I think people should take note that everybody always wants to say, oh, you should do this or you should do that, and this is how it should work, and especially coaches, which drives me nuts sometimes.
Yes.
Because I'm like, you're not doing this, right?
Like, why don't you do it?
Yeah.
It sucks.
Right? Like, I'm like, everybody wants to coach somebody, but nobody actually wants to do the work. And I love surrounding myself and having people on my podcast or doing it with the people that are actually putting the work in.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
And
Sorry
that we are in it.
Sorry
no,
to
that we're in it together. Like,
yeah.
And that's what I think unlike some loan officers last year that didn't want to it's like we tried to avoid like realtors or talking about it or something. It's like, no, that we're all in this. What do we do to get out of it and get business and be positive, right? The market, it is what it is. Rates are what they are, but there's still business to be had. So I think that's
your outlook.
And just being positive.
And so we were talking about, I mean, I want your crystal ball guess on where you think interest rates are going to be.
Oh, isn't that Dirk's area?
I'm kind of asking everybody, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get, I don't feel, this is a feeling in my soul, that we're going to get much lower than 6% this year. Okay. I mean, we haven't, every time that we've gotten a little bit lower and we've getting all excited, we've kind of inched back up for lots of different reasons. But I mean, I would be thrilled, and I've been telling people that we're going to be between 6 and 7.25
for the next year,
for this year, which is great. I mean, it's great and it's fine. I don't think that we're going to get much lower, but that's kind of just based on, I mean, your
gut feeling.
Yeah.
No, that's the question, really. That's
not on the charts.
Obviously, and none of us know really what's going to happen, right?
No.
Like anything could happen. Geopolitical, something.
Totally.
The market could crash,
Yep.
We've discussed multiple times about soft landing versus hard landing. I mean, you watch all the same stuff that we watch. We follow all the same stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's just good to just get everybody's, as I'm doing this podcast, I kind of feel like it's good to get everybody's independent view
and hear what people are saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'd actually be surprised of everybody that I ask has a lot of experience in mortgages and stuff, and it's been around for all these cycles that we've been through, because we've been through a bunch of up and down cycles, is that they all come back with pretty much the same answer.
Interesting.
You know? Yeah. No matter, I know, and I've been guilty of it myself, that you're out in public or whatever. Oh yeah, we could just have a market crash, and you'd be talking about how rates are going to be in the 5s or something. But when you sit down and really think about it, and you're probably around 6.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I agree.
And it's kind of funny that everybody's coming back with that same kind of.
The other thing about just rates and predictions and everything in general is, I don't know about you, but I am so sick of talking about rates in general. I know it's our job, but about when they come down, when this, and that to me is part of this whole philosophy of, I don't care what the rate is.
Yeah.
It could be 8, it could be 5. I want to keep doing the same thing all the time,
regardless,
and
of
not
what the interest rate is.
Be focusing on those external factors of the market rates. Right. I mean, but it's a fact. I know we need to talk about rates because it's our job, but I'm also so over it, and I'm so done with it. And I think even realtors, they're talking about it all the time because they want to tell people
you feel
oh, they're coming down.
We've kind of put the interest rate market on a pedestal.
Yes. And I'm over it.
All it's all about the rates.
Yes.
It's all about the rates, when it's not.
And it's
really
not about the rates. Yeah. And people are going to buy and sell no matter what the rates are. Could the amount of people change depending on rates and situation and market? Yes. But I am really trying to get away. I'm not talking about it on social media all the time. I don't want to focus on rate. Right. I just want to focus on, how do we get people in houses? What's the best way to do it? How do we get more business? How do we, I hate how much focus has been on rates. Yeah. So,
well, I mean,
I'm over it. Don't ask me about rates.
I know. I really like your take on it, because it's true. There's a lot, you know what I mean? You have so much truth and belief and self-awareness about this whole situation and everything you've done, that to come from a place of like, this isn't about interest rates. This is about your relationships, what you're doing, your team, like what you've built.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and no matter what happens, if the market, you're always going to be there. You're always going to be the person that's working hard.
And it's not dependent. And I think what a lot of loan officers have done, and realtors, is we've put so much emphasis on the market or where rates are, of if we're going to have a good year or a bad year, or what we're going to be able to do. And we need to stop. That's a crutch.
And you're putting your happiness in that place.
Yeah.
Because you're going to, like that's saying, well, I'm only going to be happy if rates go down, or I'm only going to be happy if I do more business.
It's ridiculous.
And that's not what life's about.
No.
Right? Life's about just being happy.
Totally. And this is just our job all the time.
Yeah.
And we like to help people, and we like to do this no matter what the rate is.
It's not a get rich quick scheme. No. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
which it is for some people, right? They get in and out or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I just want to make a bunch of money, but this isn't really, this is our lives, and this is what we do, is basically what we're saying. I love it. That was good content, Jessie. Good job.
Thank you.
So let's talk about, you're building your team. I know you're doing a really good job. You've recruited a few loan officers in the last couple months.
Yeah.
And your education and stuff.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit on that.
Yeah. So there's four loan officers in my Louisville branch now. All 4 women, to be clear, which is exciting.
I just want to point out that this is your opportunity to shamelessly put it out there and promote yourself and your branch. So
I'm looking for a 5th or a 6th.
Exactly. I really want you to take this opportunity to really put it out there about what it is.
Yeah. Well,
no pressure.
I don't want to grow. I don't need a huge branch. I don't need 20 loan officers working for me. That doesn't do anything for me. I don't have like an ego about that. So I just want the right people to work that I like, and they like me, and we like working together. And so I think that's more, I want to grow more like organically, or just kind of who's the right people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would love to have 1 or 2 more loan officers join us in the next, 1 to 3. Again, if they're the right fit and they're, good for the team.
You have such a great style of who you are, the way you run your business, and everything that you just talked about, like your education, how hard you work, like all this stuff. It's like, do you feel like you really want the people that are going to come work with you be the people that really appreciate your style and want to and understand it?
Probably.
And like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think
that's kind of like your culture, right?
Yeah, and I think obviously if you have people like you, loan officer, that are sort of like you or have similar goals, it makes it easier.
Yeah.
But I also don't think, as we know, there's many different types and personalities of loan officers, very many. And that there is not, it's the 2 of us. We've worked with a ton of people.
We've been friends completely different, right?
We're so different. Yeah. And then there's the more like engineer type of loan officer that I would say I'm not.
Yeah.
I would say you're not.
Yeah.
So yes, the answer is, it's cool when people do business similarly, because we can, let's all do this class together. That's what Dana and I have had together.
Yeah.
But
that's why I kind of asked the question, because of how you and Dana work together.
I think it's fun.
You guys are awesome together, right?
Yeah.
You're such a team, but just,
Yeah, but not, they can do it however they want, as long as I feel like they're a great fit.
And like culturally,
to a team.
And I'm not tying your education stuff to your culture. I shouldn't have done that.
Well,
no, I'm just saying,
yes.
You get along, right? Like culture's huge for us. You know that. We talk about it all the time.
I agree.
Like we've always hired our loan officers built on culture and not really on production. Like I could not hire somebody even if they're a top producer, just because I just don't want that culture in our system.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
And it's really important to me.
Yeah.
It's important to all of us, right? I think that's a super important thing to point out. So what are your plans for the year for your team? To grow business for those guys? I
would say we're excited about this new cash program that we have that we are kicking off this week. We had a class today as a whole group, and then we will next week. But I think just supporting each loan officer in what they want to do and what they need help with is really what I'm passionate about. So if someone doesn't want to get up in front of a group and teach a class, that's fine. But then just helping them figure out where are they going to get business and what works best for them and their personality.
Yeah.
One of our newer loan officers just got a dog, and just she's always at dog parks. She's always like doing all this like dog stuff now.
Yeah.
So just kind of helping remind people of like, where can you get business?
Yeah.
And how are you going to do that? And so more, I don't know. So I guess it's hard to speak as like a whole, like, what are we going to do it as a branch?
Well, I was just thinking maybe you had some like great ideas of like, okay, this is like, I'm going to try to put this out there.
Yeah.
But what I heard you just say, it's like, you're telling your team to meet people where they're at.
Yeah. And who they are.
And who they are. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like in their personality, like, hey, I'm into these things.
Yep.
And expanding your circle through that, and like
exactly,
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
which I think is like a pretty great, honest way to build business, right?
Yeah.
Just being yourself.
Yeah.
Like I've always thought like all the best salespeople aren't really salespeople.
Yeah. You're just
your own person, and you're like, and you want to help people, right?
Totally.
And you're not trying to sell something, because I kind of feel like this is a good topic. We can talk about this, and I think we've talked about this in the past, but it's like, don't you think we live in an environment now where people know when they're trying to be sold something?
Totally. Especially when you're trying to sell to a salesperson.
That's like
I mean, whenever Kyle and I will go like to get a car or something, I'm like, let me guess. Now you're trying to do this technique. Like you can't, don't sell to a salesperson, because we know like all your tricks and it's annoying.
Yeah.
So yes, and I think even also in like Boulder County and just the way that we do business in general, it's just very like, and sorry, I'm categorizing like a whole county, but just Colorado and being like a little more like chill and laid back, and just you attract my philosophy has always been just be yourself and go do the things that you do. And be who you are, and then you will attract the right people to you. Like my clients are different than yours, for sure, because they're just attracted to like me and who I am and like what I do in life.
Isn't that crazy that you can have like 10 different loan officers or whatever, like 12 different loan officers in our two branches, and then you don't really get any like we don't really compete with each other, because we're all in these different circles of people because of life, because we're all different people, and we have different circles and all that stuff, right?
And we're interested in different things. Yeah. We do different things with our free time. We're in different groups.
Yeah.
But I think, just being authentic, like, and then if someone's like one of my loan officers is trying to be, that works with me, is trying to be like me and do business the way I do, but it's not them, it's not going to work. Right. And I think we've learned that over time. We've had all these managers and coaches and trainers that try to get you to do these things. Oh, well, if you do this, if you do these 4 things, then like you'll be successful. And it's like, no, not if I hate it. It kind of goes back
to what I was saying. It's like coaching is like, well, why don't you do it?
Totally.
Like, that's not going to work for me. Like, correct. I just want to do things the way that I want to do it, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Yep.
And I feel like the best leaders are the ones that let people kind of just do that. Like, I agree. You promote that, right?
Yeah. Let them
just live in the space where they're at, and be like, hey, if you feel like this is going to work for you, and you want to go out there and work this way, do it. But do it. Like, don't just not do anything. Exactly. You have to do something. Right?
And that's kind of that part of being a manager, of how much to
accountability
push people on. Well, that's great. You said you were going to do that. Did you do it?
Yeah.
So I agree. And then, I did want to tell you, bring up something though that I'm very, very proud of, that, and you know this, but that I started at the end of last year or middle of last year, is the social media stuff. I finally decided.
So that is a perfect thing of why I asked you what you're doing this year.
Okay.
For your team.
Okay. So I have tried to avoid social media at all costs for
how long?
22 years.
No, that's not fair. Like, how long is it really?
No, posting things or putting things out there, never. I'm not joking.
Well, I know, but 10 years, right? Like,
yeah, how long has it been
12 years.
How long has it been a thing?
I think it's been about 12 years.
Okay, thank you. So I haven't done it for 12 years. But I finally
you didn't
decided.
Even do like personal stuff? Or
no.
Nothing?
I didn't. I don't like it. I don't I didn't want to put myself out there. I don't want to.
You mean you didn't like it, but you like it now?
I didn't like it, and I was hoping that the trend would pass. But it didn't.
You were hoping it would just go away.
Yes, I was like, oh, this is a fad. I feel like a boomer right now, but it was a fad, and it's going to go away, and I don't have to do it. Well, unfortunately, it's not a fad.
Yeah. So you've been doing.
So
you started that in the middle of last year.
Yes.
You're yes. kind of like not mandating, but you're like pushing your team to like
yes.
all get involved in it. I see all the posts. I think the posts look great. I've told you that before.
Thank you.
I think you guys are doing a really good job of just like getting it out there, and I think the concept of top of mind, because you're not gonna. It's not like you're doing all these posts. You're doing all this stuff that you're gonna get direct deals from this stuff, but like top of mind and like all the it's the same reason like when I was in snowboarding, everybody made stickers.
Oh, so that
you put stickers everywhere, so you're at top of mind. Like this company exists.
Yep.
Right. So kind of along the same.
Exactly. Yep.
Kind of along the same idea.
Yep.
And I think you're doing a really good job with it. So. I mean, what's your plan for this year to like expand on it or more video?
I think it was like for me, and I'm just talking specifically for myself. I just had to get over that. Once I finally was like, I need to do this. This is business. Yeah. This is marketing. This is how the world works.
Yeah.
And you can't hide from it. I didn't like the self-promotions. I don't like videos. I think my voice sounds like a munchkin. I don't know. But you just have to, once I got over it and said, this is what I need to do to stay in front of people and to do this for business, then my mindset shifted and I got over the I don't like how I look and I sound stupid. I just got over it. Right. I got over it and I said, this is it. This is
what you get.
This is what you get. And why am I hiding it?
It doesn't matter.
So exactly. Yeah. So as soon as that was like a really, really big mental thing for me. And I don't, if you knew me before,
you're not alone.
I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to.
I know.
But then I was like, I got to do it. So I'm really proud that that was a big thing that I changed in my business last year.
Huge.
And I'm really proud of it. And is our social media perfect? No. Is it totally amazing? No. But it doesn't matter. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And we're out there, and like you said, awareness of me. They're not forgetting about me. And so then I'm trying to push it for the rest of the team too, of having a resource. We have someone helping us put some of the posts together. It's all our content, but she's helping make it pretty. And that was a great thing that we did. So we kept trying to do it ourselves, and it wasn't working. It was So it was let's get someone to help us
that knows
and actually get this going. Right. So that was another thing that I would say is if you're intimidated by it or you're scared or you don't like it, get someone to help you.
It's like the age-old thing of living outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yes.
And you feel like you just had a breakthrough.
And that's why I feel like I need to shout it from the rooftops. Everyone else is yeah, we've been doing this for 12 years.
You know what? I think it's great because this is a perfect example of having someone who's been taught all these things their whole career.
Old dog.
Well, no, but I mean, you've been coached, you've been told all these things, living outside your comfort zone, doing things that make you feel uncomfortable, and it's this was one thing that you were avoiding and you finally broke through and now you're I did it. And I'm you're just in a different space now.
And I'm really proud of it. And because it is out of my comfort zone, but I think that it already is paying off and will continue to pay off. So awesome. That was a really big breakthrough for me.
I think that's great. I think it's great to, just be able to do that later on in your life when you think that you don't have any other, because, you get a little older and you're kind of I'm fine, whatever. Totally. And you're here's a new one. Yeah. I'm going to push through this barrier. And,
I agree. And actually I could have just kept, it's I could have
9 people out of 10 people. This isn't a real stat. Would have not gone there.
I agree.
Especially, after the career, after having already been in the business for a long time. Not that you've had a long career. I hate to say that because we're probably both going to be in the business for a long time. We're not that old. We're still young.
We're medium old.
Yeah, we're medium old, and we're Gen X, so we're pretty tough. We go both. So it's but it's really cool because most people wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And be all right, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
because they'd let their own inhibitions about how they thought they looked or how they felt, and they'd push through.
Yeah.
It's like doing this podcast.
It's
like
true.
I do this podcast, I'm like, oh man, it's probably gonna be terrible. Nobody's gonna listen to it. I don't care. I made a goal. I'm gonna do 52 episodes at least of this.
I love it.
And then I'm gonna keep going if I like it. Right? Just to do it. Just to do something I've never done before and have fun with it.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that was, so the other cool thing, tying all this back, was last year when we didn't know what to do and we were, depressed and like business was down the most that we've been. I was focusing on learning and doing that and doing something new and exciting. And that did help me get through the year.
Totally.
So instead of just sitting around and being like, well, I've just done the same thing and now this just sucks, I was proud that I did something new and focused on it, and it took a lot of time and energy.
Which had nothing to do with financial gain or anything. It's just your own happiness, just feeling good about getting something done that you've never done before. Right?
Totally. So that's a focus for the year, and we're committed to it now.
Yeah.
And then helping my loan officers, if they're not comfortable with it, I think I'm going to be like the poster child of, I also wasn't comfortable with it.
Right.
And do I love this? Would I choose to do this on my own? No. This doesn't.
I think your answer now is yes.
Well, now I'm a star. And now, I might even become an influencer. I don't know. You never know.
You being an influencer.
I'm not sure who I would influence for what, but
I think there's probably a lot of women out there that would probably find you pretty fascinating and want to follow you in general. I think that would be
cool.
I've kind of asked everybody this question. It's kind of like my final question for the podcast is, what advice in this market do you give new home buyers?
Oh, new home buyers.
Yeah, like new people coming into the market. They're scared. Rates are high. Obviously real estate prices are higher than they've ever been. Starting to come down a little bit in some markets. But so what is the advice that you're doing?
Well, I would say, and I don't feel like this advice has really changed. If anything, it's gotten even more important. I think choose the right people to be on your team. Ooh. And don't, the people are very, especially, Gen Z, maybe some millennials are a little bit more prone to, go shop around and find the lowest rates on the internet, or, do an online lender and not research necessarily a realtor that they know or trust. I think that we've always said that it's important to have a good, strong team behind you. But I think this year it's even more important to have a realtor who is good and smart and can think outside the box and give you really, really great service and help you find the right things. And then a lender who, is a teammate with the realtor and can help navigate all the things that are going on with rates and buy downs and our new cash program. I just think
has all the tools
and the advice and wisdom and experience to help you get a house and be in the right product and get it done. So I think,
and as far as timing, previous guests have said, get in as soon as you can because properties are going to keep going up. But that's pretty much the basic answer. I love your answer because it's super detailed and really thought out. You know what I mean? And obviously, because you're this has always been my answer. It's
not a new answer.
This is not a new answer. This is an age-old thing, which I totally agree with.
Yes.
And somebody had said, and I don't know if you were there or not, the questions that younger adults should be asking their agents or their loan officers is, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah.
How long have you been in this business? How many transactions have you done? To really get an idea of who they are. Because I think because all the focus on interest rate, which look, we're definitely not saying somebody should just go pay points higher or any much higher interest rate. And I think everybody is kind of pretty competitive.
I agree.
In where we stand.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And just understanding who they're dealing with, what the experience is behind.
The experience, and then like you said, putting them in the right, figuring out how to get them under contract and how to find them a house might be
hard.
It's harder. Last year it was harder. This year it's harder. It's going to get even harder if competition heats up.
And rates come down a little bit.
Yep. You need to have the right people on your team to advise you of how to get under contract.
Otherwise, you're not going to get the house that you really
You're
want.
literally not going to get a house.
Yeah.
And I don't think that everyone always understands that team is so critical.
Well, Jessie, I just want to thank you for coming on my podcast.
Sure.
I love you. You're amazing.
Thank you for having me.
This was a great conversation, and I'm glad that we got to sit down and have it.
Me too.
And I'm sure at some point I'm going to have you back on the show.
Okay.
If you'll have me.
I will.
You will?
I can do that. I do like when people ask my opinion.
No, really? I couldn't tell. No, well, like I said when I started the broadcast, you're one of the most intelligent people I've ever worked with, man or woman, but like one of the most inspiring women in this business that I've ever been around, which is super cool. And like I said, it's, I'll have you back and listen to you talk any day.
On camera or off camera also.
Either way. Thanks, Jessie.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.